Welcome once again. This is the second of the recordings I put together for my class in the world of religions, and my interest again is on philosophy and religion. Where do they intersect? I also teach philosophy at Broward College. Tonight I want to go into a whole area of philosophy known as metaphysics. We use the word metaphysics often to talk about this New Age kind of mysterious realities that are out there, but metaphysics is a classic area of philosophy. It goes back to ancient Greece. Aristotle had a whole book called the Metaphysics. Metaphysics means what is reality, what's really out there, what does the world consist of? And there are various opinions. I'm going to share with you three of those opinions and how they affect religion. First of all, Aristotle, when he spoke about metaphysics, spoke about what he called a substance. That reality is made of substances. And we often talk about two kinds of substances. There is matter, bodies, the physical stuff, the material stuff, and there's mind, the mental stuff. So matter and mind are the two kinds of substances we usually speak about. And let me go back to Aristotle's teacher Plato. Plato in the Republic has a very, very famous story or parable. Actually, usually it's called the Allegory of the Cave. He imagined that people are stuck in a cave looking at shadows on the wall, and one of those prisoners in the cave is able to get out and go up and see what is being reflected that's shining on that wall. And he said that the shadows on the wall, that's the material world. That's the substance, the changeable substance of material. What was shining on the wall is this ideal world of forms, this unchangeable world that we could only reach through our mind. So Plato said there were really two substances: the shadows, the material world, and the world of the forms that reflects in this world. Now, Plato has become very, very important for modern religion. If you think about Christianity or Judaism or Islam for that matter, and think about the idea that the soul comes into this world and inhabits a body. The soul comes from that world of the forms. The body is the material world. They're two separate substances. When we die, the body, the material, returns back to the earth where it came from. The soul returns to God, to that perfect world. And when we say that the soul returns to God, we may think we're talking about the Bible. We're really talking very much about Plato and Platonism. And Platonism and now Christianity and Judaism is based on this notion that there are two separate substances. There's matter and there's mind. The name for the idea that there's two kinds of substances is called dualism. And the most famous dualist was the early modern philosophy Rene Descartes. Descartes believed that there are two different substances, that there's bodies, physical things that take up space, and then there's mental or thinking things. And he developed an entire philosophy. Some of you may have heard Descartes' very famous phrase, "I think, therefore I am." That was the beginning of the notion that there's mental substances. But then Descartes went on to prove there's physical substances. So Descartes was a dualist, that there are two separate things. There's mind and there's body. There's matter, there's spirit. A lot of religions believe that matter is somehow tainted with evil. There were ancient groups like the Gnostics, Gnostics, that said matter is evil. Judaism and Christianity all believe that matter, although it's not as high a level as spirit or soul or so on, is still God's creation and still has some kind of goodness. But classical Judaism, classical Christianity, classical Islam are dualistic religions, and Descartes was a dualist. On the other hand, there's monism. Monism is the belief that there's only one substance. That one substance may be matter. Everything is matter. And that's known as materialism. Or it could be that everything is mind. That's known as idealism. Materialism, everything is matter, everything is chunks of stuff, is the belief of many, many scientists today, but it also goes back to the ancient Greeks. There was a group of people known as the atomists who said that everything in the world is either little chunks of matter that they called atoms or empty space. And these work by certain deterministic laws. Many, many scientists have become atheists because they're materialists. They don't believe that there's anything besides the material world. There's matter. But to talk about a soul or the world to come or life after death, or to talk about God, is to put some kind of mind into the world, and we have no proof that such a mind exists. All we know exists is matter going about the various physical processes. One famous materialist was a fellow named, an Enlightenment thinker named Simon Pierre Laplace. And Laplace very famously said that if we knew the location of every piece of matter, every particle in the universe, and we knew its momentum, we could tell the entire future, because all there is particles going on by physical laws. All there is matter. He gave his book to Napoleon, and Napoleon said, "Where's God in this?" And Laplace said, "I have no need for such a hypothesis." Many atheists are materialists, and there's been many books written today by such people as Richard Dawkins, who defends atheism, and Sam Harris, who say there's no soul, there's no free will, there's no mind, all there is matter. On the other hand, there's another philosophical approach that's known as idealism, that says everything is mind. To exist is to be perceived by a mind. We can't know anything about the real world. We just know what the mind perceives. One of the most famous of the philosophers who taught this was a fellow named Bishop George Berkeley, who said that to exist is to be perceived. And if you're not perceived, you don't really exist. Everything is mind. Now, this may sound crazy to you, but I think that quantum physics points in this direction. Quantum physics says until you observe something, until a mind looks at it, it's a wave that cannot be pinned down. It's only when an observer looks at something that it takes on a real existence. This kind of idealism has become very important in Eastern religions. Hinduism and Buddhism, they believe that matter, that what we think about as matter is somehow unreal. All there is mind. And in fact, the Hindus, we have a soul that may come back over and over, but our soul is part of the Brahman. Atman is Brahman. The individual soul is part of this divine mind. Buddhists say we don't even have an individual soul. That whatever makes up our soul is all part of this mind. So we've seen three different approaches to metaphysics. Dualism, mind and matter exist. If mind and matter exist, you've got a problem. How do they interact? How does my mind interact with my matter? How does my brain interact with my mind? Then we have monism. We have materialistic monism, which says only matter exists. But if only matter exists, where does mind come from? Where does consciousness come from? What does it mean that I'm aware that I have a conscious mind if all I am is a brain? And on the other hand, we have another kind of monism known as idealistic monism. Everything is mind. Quantum physics and the Eastern religion seem to point in that direction. So who's right? Do both mind and matter exist? Does only matter exist? Does only mind exist? That is one of the great debates in philosophy, and it's also a great debate in religion.